we're going to make a Kashmiri green tea. It is by far one of my favorite kinds of green teas, and you will know why very quickly, because all the ingredients are absolutely fragrant and delicious just on their own, but the combination is literally heavenly. Alright, so very quickly, this tea includes 3 essential ingredients. Of course, you have your green tea, but you also need cardamom pods and rose, either in this form or in the form of a rose petal jam, which looks something like this. I'll show you this in a little bit. Alright, to get started, I have about 1 liter of water, and I haven't started it up yet, but I will. And in order to get this going, what I'm going to do is take a few pods of cardamom. Now, cardamom is a green, it looks like that, it's a triangular pod, and most people just, and I'm going to hold it up close, most people just toss the whole thing in there. Now, in order to get the best and the most potent flavor out of the cardamom, what you need to do is crack the pot open, and it's not hard. Trust me, it's not hard. So what you do is take, if you want to just get to the seed and not anything else, what you do is on your chopping board or on your cooking surface, kind of push it down, and it will crack. And once it starts cracking, I'm going to set these down. It'll expose very, very small brown or black cardamom seeds, and any of these is fine. So as you can tell, I'm going to hold this under the overhead camera so you can see a little bit better. So you can see that's the cardamom seeds. So what I'm going to do is take a few of these. So this was about 1 pod. Now, since I have about 1 liter of water, I think it's going to make enough for about 4 people. So I have in here about 3 cardamom pods and my little water and pestle. And I'm going to, pardon the noise, but I'm going to pound them down. Now it's very fragrant on its own right now. So I have them roughly pounded, and you can work on it and make it into a finer grain if you like, but all we're looking for is for it to share its flavors with the water that's in there. So you get as much of this as possible in here, and set this aside. Now there are 2 ways to use rose in this. This is a rose petal jam. It's homemade, so it kind of looks like that on the inside, and it is essentially untreated rose petals that are preserved in sugar. Now, this adds a bunch of sweetness, so if you are not concerned about the sweetness that comes from it, you can definitely use some of this in your preparation. The recipe is included in my book, both for the tea as well as for the rose petal jam in this book, 7 Pots of Tea. If you're not keen on using any kind of a sugared substance, you are more than welcome to use rose buds. Now, these are, again, they're available in ethnic markets, and especially in Chinese and Asian, other Asian stores, where you can find rose buds in the tea section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 separate cups to show you what they look like. So to get this started, what I'm going to do is, now that the water is nice and boiling, I'm going to add a handful of rose buds in here. The water is already fragrant from the cardamom, so I have about in here maybe about 15 to 20 rose buds. I'm going to let this steep. And on the side, what I will also have on these 2 cups of mine, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of saffron. Saffron is an expensive spice because essentially it is the inner parts of a flower, and these are hand collected, so it makes for a very labor intensive collection technique, and that's why saffron is expensive. But what you're looking for is these really lush long threads of saffron. Now these are going to bloom in your tea, but because this is an expensive spice, I don't want to lose it in the container, and I want to make sure that whoever gets this cup enjoys the saffron for what it is and can see it. So I'm going to put it about 2 to 3 threads in the bottom of each cup. Now, this is starting to boil, and since this kettle has an auto shut off, I know to watch for when it might be getting ready to shut off. So what I'm going to do is, oh, there we go, it shut off, and you see how the color on the water changes because of both the cardamom and the rose. Now, for the tea component of this, what I'm going to do is add about 2 large tablespoons worth of premium green tea. You can choose any green tea that you like. Be sure that you're not choosing a gunpowder green because that tends to be very dense in flavor, and it has a robust and earthy, woody flavor. And if you end up steeping it for any reason by accident too long, it may end up tasting a little bit more bitter than you would like. So what I'm going to do is, this is a very delicate green tea. I'm going to add 2 heaped tablespoons into it and let it just sit in there. I might add a little more. I think it needs a little bit more. And I'm going to let it sit in here for about a minute or so. And what I'm going to do in the meanwhile is let this the temperature cool down a little, and I will kick it back up for a minute and bring this to a boil again. What I am going to do is show you the difference in the 2 cups. Alright, so this is done. Very quick and easy, isn't it? Alright, what I'm going to do is show you what the tea was going to look like with the rose petal jam and without. Now, I have to tell you about why this tea is really good. This uses an essential, actually 2 essential spices in Indian cooking, cardamom and saffron. It is very floral because of the rose, and rose is considered very cooling, so it's a great way to calm your body down. In terms of the rasas, or the rasas that are part of each of these, cardamom is sweet and pungent, and you can of course tell the taste when you taste it as sweet, but the sweetness, when I talk about the flavors or these flavors, they're not just what it does on your tongue, but how your body reacts to it. So when I say that the rasa of the cardamom is sweet, that's what it means, is how your body sees it. Saffron is also sweet, astringent, but is also bitter, so you want to be sure that you don't put too much of saffron in anything, although saffron tends to be a favorite among some people. They put a lot in it just because of the robust color, and it looks very bright and very very colorful, but it also can be very warming to your body, so you want to hold off and hold off on putting just about the entire container of saffron into your pot. Rose, on the other hand, is bitter, pungent, and sweet. And tea is also bitter and sweet, but it is also astringent. Now, tea and cardamom are both considered warming, whereas, tea and saffron are considered warming. Cardamom is considered warming, but if you're using too much of it. But rose, on the other hand, is cooling, so it kind of helps balance everything out. That's why rose is really important in this tea. So what I'm going to do, now that this has steeped enough, I'm going to take about, not a tablespoon, but a rough tablespoon. This will be a little too much for my cup, so maybe not that much. All right. When you have homemade rose petal jam, it tends to clump up on itself like this, and it's extremely fragrant because it still has some of the essence of the rose, and all of that is captured in the sugar. So I'm going to put about that much into one of these cups, and the other one is going to be without. And you'll see what happens when I pour it in. This is a very bright golden color thanks to the saffron, and you've preserved that color because your saffron is in the cup and not in the pot. So we have these two. What tends to happen with the rose petal jam is that it obviously will unfurl, and you'll see the rose petals unfurling. So you'll have that in your tea. Most people don't mind it because it's fragrant and it gives you a little texture to chew on. If that's something that you don't care for, then obviously you strain that out. But what I do for fun, for just a little color and to kind of add a reminder that there's rose in here, I add a couple of these rose buds back into the pot. Try to sink it in a little bit so they soften. And there you have a really fragrant and very beautiful looking cup of Kashmiri green tea. You're more than welcome to add dried nuts in there, and ideally almond is a preferred nut, or flaked almonds are preferred for this drink, but you don't have to add it. It just adds a little texture and something to chew on while you're sipping this. But believe me, if you make this once, you're probably going to make this more often because it is so fragrant, because it is so delicious, and it is such a great way to have a cup of tea without really going through the same old patterns of the kinds of tea that you're used to. So here's to Kashmiri green tea. I hope you make it and enjoy it, and let me know when you do, because I really would appreciate the feedback on it. Enjoy, and I look forward to hearing from you.